Morning, guys. First of all, just a real quick opening statement. We just got to bounce back, regroup today. We got practice today. Our guys were good on Sunday, so looking forward to seeing them this afternoon, and we'll move forward. So I'll take some questions. Yes, Mike.
Coach, before the winning took care of itself, but now when we look at how these ratings go and how the game is played, style points matter, I guess. Do you take a different approach in terms of maybe when you get a big lead, how you'll manage that lead now that you know that the College Football Playoff Committee seems to be affected by game control and scores and that sort of thing?
Well, our first goal always is to win the football game. So after that, we're going to play until we're comfortable. As best we can. Obviously, we've had a lot of close games, as well as last game. But I really haven't concerned myself with that. I sort of feel like if we win, good things happen. When you lose, negative things tend to happen. So we're just going to concentrate on trying to win a football game and not worry about the style points. We've never really, I don't think we've ever piled it on a football team here, and that's not my intention. So.
Always diplomatic on officials, but in addition to not wanting to get in trouble, aren't you also sending a message to your team that they are culpable for what happened too? They didn't stop the other team. They didn't get the first down. It's not all about the officials, as some fans would have it said.
No, from my perspective, I need to be able to, from my perspective, I need to be able to, first of all, control myself. If I can't control myself, how can I ask our football team to control themselves? That's number one. Number two, you're always talking about life lessons to our football team and to our program that go beyond football. So I'm looking at how I react to that and how our team reacts to that. You're not going to win all the time. We haven't lost here in a year. Most people have lost in that time period at some point in time. So for a year, we've avoided that aspect of losing. Don't like it. It sort of eats at you, and you tend to really overanalyze and reanalyze everything that you do in a football game relative to that aspect. Why did we lose? That's one play. There were other opportunities to create seconds used, and there were other opportunities that we didn't make a play. So we all have to take responsibility in this. The people on the field, the people officiating, the coaches, everybody takes responsibility in winning and losing. And, there's some things I can control, and I've learned to deal with that and do my best, and there's other things that I have no control of, and I've learned how to deal with that, and I'll let somebody else worry about that aspect of it. And they've got that aspect to deal with, and that's their problem. And that's sort of the way I've approached it. And we've got to move on, and we've won an awful lot of close football games here. So we lost one. We let one get away from us that we should have had, in my perspective. With that said, Nebraska did the job on their end to win that football game. And now we face a football team that has had, first of all, a very tough schedule. It's gone through a coaching change. Has got weapons. And William Likely, number 4, great punt returner, kick returner, and a guy that they put over on offense from their corner position. They got a quarterback who runs the ball very effectively. Some talented young wideouts, a great defensive end, and a defense that's been difficult to play against. And they've been in every football game they've been in. They've been in them, and they've lost at the end. So we face ourselves with another challenge. So we need to focus on that challenge and recognize that aspect and get ready to play, which we will.
Mark, you mentioned not having lost a game in almost a year and how you guys are going to bounce back. I'm just curious, what are the things, do you do any different things over the last couple of days since it's been a while since you guys lost, to try and make sure that focus comes back really quickly for these guys?
Yeah, we're going to analyze why we lost that football game, and certainly the 2-minute situation entered into it, as well as some other plays throughout the game. We're going to address those issues and look in depth at those issues and try and correct them, or just correct them. But that doesn't mean they won't repeat themselves, but we're going to make sure that we do everything we can to evaluate why did we win? Why do we lose? And let's be on the winning side of things. And continue to talk to our players about handling their situations and playing well, and also reasserting themselves as leaders. Life's not going to always go like this. You're going to have some down times. And as I told them on Sunday, if they thought that was a bad situation and a tough deal, they should have been here in 2011 at the Big Ten championship game. That was a tough one. And we went to a banquet the next day. But we got off our back and played well and won it, beat Georgia in, triple overtime? So, hopefully these things are life lessons, as I said.
Mark, you mentioned earlier how it was almost a year to the day since your team's last loss, and coincidentally enough, you guys rebounded nicely against Maryland last year after losing to Ohio State. You come up against Maryland again this year. Anything you kind of take from last year's game, whether it be Maryland returning players or your team returning players, that you're going to kind of draw similarly in how you prepare for the game this year, coming off a loss?
Well, I just think it's another, as I just said, it's another opportunity to prove yourself. It's another opportunity to say, okay, we got knocked down, we're getting back up off the mat, and we're playing. And that's what we had to do last year. We had to go and we had to play. After a very disappointing game, we had to get back up and play, and that's what we did. And I think there's something to be said for that when you don't succeed at something, regardless of what you're doing, to be able to go back in that arena and be successful.
Mark, along those lines, when did you know, like last year, going into that game, it was a pretty focused, business-like approach. When did you know your team had that, and do you usually know in a given week, earlier before the game?
Really, I'm almost quit trying to figure out how a football team gets ready. I've seen guys in the locker room be very serious and not play very well, and I've seen guys be almost just sort of very just sort of jovial almost and play very well. So I don't know, but I understand how we prepare, and it's basically how we practice. We had great practices last week. We didn't play, that didn't transition into playing well early in the game. There were some other things that happened in the game, obviously, but again, credit Nebraska, credit the environment, and everything else goes along with that. But at the end of the day, how do you know? You don't. Otherwise, we wouldn't all be sitting here talking about it. You don't. That's what makes sports so unique. You try and get ready, but you don't know until the game starts, and it's hard to carry that emotion that you have going into a game. It's hard to carry that forward in a game because the game is such an emotional swing. There's so many emotional swings in a football game. You got to be able to keep it in that at that time. I think that time of pressure. I will say pressure. You got to be able to maintain your composure.
Mark, this team still controls its own destiny in the division and in the conference. Do you think people outside this program are losing sight of that, given the loss?
Well, it doesn't really matter what people outside are maintaining. It's what's on the inside to me that it matters, and that's what I have to control myself with. I come over here as a public responsibility, okay? But my main responsibility is over there with our football team. But I'm over here for your benefit.
Mark, with the rush defense, I think that maybe the Michigan game was the best performance of the year for your defense. I know matchups are different every week, but is this, at this point, something you're concerned about? Is it disappointing to you just the way the front seven has played against the run this season?
You see a lot of different runs, variety of runs, and in college football today, there's a lot of innovative ways to run the football. And, I think what you have to concern yourself with is consistency. If the ball breaks for 12 yards, if it runs for 60 yards, and they don't get anything for the rest of the day, consistently you're playing pretty well. I would say we were inconsistent versus the pass on Saturday and inconsistent versus the run as well. But there's a lot of things that lead into that. It's preparation. Are they doing the same thing that you saw them do, and were you prepared for it? Did you make plays? So I think it's all inclusive. It's coaching, it's playing, and everybody has to raise their level of play to be able to get back to where we're accustomed to be. And I think our players are capable of doing that, and I think our coaches are too.
Just go follow up on that other point. There is a feeling around here that I got text Saturday night that the season's over. I mean, that's silliness, isn't it? I mean, you don't line up in August just to play in January, do you?
No, as I said, I think I guess we're pretty spoiled around here at this point, but that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing. All right, but we lost one football game, so and it's there's a lot to play for. And as I told our players on Sunday, as I was in my closet, my wife washed my clothes for me, and so I was putting clothes on a hanger and hanging them up. Okay, and it just so happened I picked up a Rose Bowl shirt, put it on a hanger. I said, "Oh, we were 13-1 that year." And the next when I picked up, I said, "Oh, here's a Cotton Bowl shirt." I hung that on a thing. Well, we were 11-2, and we ended up number 5 in the nation. We ended up number 3 in the nation. But when you get to that point, sometimes that's not good enough anymore. It's not good enough for us. That's why I said to reach higher, because you're always trying to go somewhere you haven't been, and so that's what we're trying to do. And that's what this program should try and do. But let's not be naive either. Other people out there have good programs, well-established programs, players on scholarship, good coaches, and they have drive too, and they're playing for something as well. And, I've watched Nebraska from afar. They've lost some tough games. So they won one, and say they should be congratulated for that. But under no circumstances, are we washed up out of town, So we've got a lot to play for here. So I don't know what will be ranked or anything like that, but right now we're number 2 in the conference and with an opportunity to play our way to number 1. That's all I can tell you.
You got Medeiros over on defense on the depth chart this week. I know he played there Saturday, and it looks like Monte's back as a co-starter. Are you still kind of tinkering, trying to find solutions on the back end at this point?
Yeah, I think, we've used Monty there before. Don't get him confused with Monte, like Coach Snides does sometimes. But, I think he's got skills. He's got ball skills. He can run. He plays on all our special teams. He's played corner in the past. And I thought he did some good things on Saturday. You just have to advance his growth as we move forward. You just have to continue to try and advance his knowledge. But he brings a different perception to our secondary because he understands a little bit more about wide receiver play, and he can sort of take that and use that as a defensive back in terms of splits, in terms of movements and things of that nature. And he's got great ball skills and eye-hand coordination, and he can run. So we're going to continue to work that. We'll see how he does this week relative to how much play. Guys all good? Yeah, Joe.
Also at cornerback, so if Hicks practiced some this week, does that mean, does he have to totally pass a concussion test to practice at all? where is he with that?
He's passed the concussion test. He practiced a little bit last week, but I felt like he hadn't played football in a month, and I just didn't know if he was ready. So rather than put him in a situation like that, we held that opportunity. Now, that's up to him. He's got to come out and perform, and he's got to be able to do the things that allow him to regain that position. I.e., got to see him tackle. Got to see him play the ball in the deep part of the field. We got to see him be active, explosive, because he's been sitting for a month almost, or 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks.
Him not being on the depth chart, is that?
He's on the depth chart, I thought. It's not. That's John always gives me that depth chart. No, he's in there.
So more likely.
It's my fault, guys. But again, I said it was for your benefit, so he's in the hunt to play. Depends on how he practices this week. It's up to how he's performing. That would be the situation.
Mark, a little bit off topic here, but I don't know if you saw what went on in Missouri over the last few days with the effect those players had on changing things there. I just wonder if you could comment on the influence that athletes, especially football players, have today in our university.
Well, it speaks to the power of football. There's no question about that. I think we're in a different time in society with social media and all the different things, and it's just a different time. So I think people have power and power of the media and different things, and I'm not sure really all the ramifications there. I don't have a lot of knowledge of all the things, but obviously, a statement was made.
Didn't know if you had a chance to text Jeremy Langford after last night, and when you look at from him going into his junior year off scholarship to where he is, his progress.
Yeah, I heard the end result when I came in today from John, and obviously tremendous performance by him. Very, very happy for him. I was really happy for him to be able to walk out in midfield a couple of games ago, the Indiana game, be our honorary captain, and to receive that recognition. So everything I hear about Jeremy from the scouts and the different people I've talked to from the Bears is saying that he has done a phenomenal job. But not just in running the football and catching it, but showing up on special teams, work ethic, and all the different things. So, I'm glad that we were a part of that, and he's done it himself. But he truly, he changed it around. He really did. And as I told our players after the Rose Bowl, there's a guy that ran the ball 6 times when he was a sophomore, and then he has 2 seasons with us and scores 40 touchdowns. So it can happen. It can happen. He was in our program for 3 years. Now he's in the NFL and succeeding on a big stage, an even bigger stage. So it can happen for all of us, but it's timing, it's work ethic, it's belief in yourself and confidence and those type of things.
Kind of as a dovetail off that, obviously Le'Veon's out for the year after his injury, but those 2 guys on the biggest stage, when you have key players at key positions like that are in commercials and on Monday Night Football doing these things, what does that bring back to the program long term?
I think long term it brings back to the program, obviously, that we've got good players here, that we've been successful at a high level, that if you play tailback and you want to come, for all you people out there, if you want to play tailback and come here to Michigan State, you can be very, very successful, and you can go on from here and do great things. And I think that's sort of a proving ground. Edwin Baker's been in it. I think he was called back. I'm not sure if he ended up. But Javon Ringer played 4 years. Our tailbacks, Glenn Winston has been playing on and off. So our tailbacks really have been very successful beyond Michigan State. And I think it's a credit to, it's one of the reasons we've won here, first of all, and it's another one of the reasons that that I think our recruiting goes well at that position.
Coach, can you talk about Craig Evans and Drake Martinez? I saw Martinez on the participation chart, and what's ahead for those 2 seem to be emerging players?
Well, Drake's been battling an injury and finally got healthy enough to practice. We carried him to the Nebraska game. We played him one kickoff because I thought it was important to get him started and jump-start him, plus at Nebraska. But he's missed a lot of time. He's missed about 2 months almost of practice. So from a knowledge standpoint, we got to get him back involved, at least on special teams and things of that nature. So we'll have to see how this week goes. And then Craig Evans played well, played a lot and played well. Joel Heath went down after 20 plays or so. So Craig played a lot of football and played his best football. And he was a guy that stood out and was, I'm not going to use the word dominant, but stood out and was impressive.
With Aaron, Mark, is this year more about opportunity that's now there for him, or has the light gone off for him? And if so, what sort of things is he doing differently this year?
Aaron,
I'm sorry, Burbridge.
With Burbridge, I think Aaron Burbridge has always been an outstanding football player. He's healthy, and he's always been a guy that, even as a freshman, he became a go-to guy in 2012. If you remember some of those games, but he's battled some injuries. We had other good players, as evidenced by those guys playing in the league right now. Whether it's Benny Fowler or Keith Mumphrey or Tony Lippett. Now he's basically a number 1 type receiver. So he's got great confidence, great ball skills. He's got extremely quick, He's got good long speed, and he's performing at a very high level. When I sit around and I talk to our football team or I talk to our coaches and say, hey, if we're going to have a great year, which, by the way, going back to Fred's question, we are having a great year, okay? You got to have your best year as a senior. And if you can look at certain guys, Aaron Burbridge, there's no question he's having his best year as a football player at Michigan State. It's his senior year. That allows us to move forward.
Got time for one or two more. Yeah.
Long press conferences. We're good to go?
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.